Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
Will Rogers said this and said it best, I think. We can't all be heroes, because someone has to sit on the curb and clap as they go by. How true. Good morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith, and God bless America, followed by a Patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance on a Tuesday. Good morning, good morning. Thank you very much, and welcome to the program this morning, everybody. Zeb at the Ranch, I'm Zeb Bell, and of course brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And then don't forget, too, some of our great advertisers like Western Way Services, always at your disposal. Call, get on the route service, 734-6969. And right now, let's have our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning.
Good morning, Zeb, and it'd be my honor. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I should know who this is. I know that voice, but I can't place you.
You've never met me.
Well,
I call in frequently, but I'm a local trucker, so I don't get to hear your program all the time.
You did an excellent job on that pledge, and you got to promise me you'll do it again. That was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. God bless you. I love hearing new people on the air, but her voice sounded really familiar. Hey, it's time for the weather forecast, and it's brought to you by some dear friends of mine, and that's, of course, Cheney Flooring and Home Design at 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for that blue door. I'll tell you what, they've got the best of carpet and flooring, kitchen construction, home decor items, really whatever you need to make your house a home, and a lot of great a lot of great interior design ideas, like grab a few different size pine cones and paint them with pastel colors, and it's a fast, easy spring centerpiece. Yeah, I got to think spring. They are too at Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Here's Gino with the weather.
Looks like we still have that flood warning. It is in effect because temperatures are warming up. We've got a lot of melting going on, and, of course, more rain showers in the forecast for today. Looks like it's going to be windy as well out of the southwest, right around 26 miles an hour. We are expecting a high of 49 tonight, low of 32 tomorrow. Winds are going to be dying down just a little bit. Still cloudy, high of 39 with an overnight low of 25. Looks like possible snow showers for Thursday morning. Winds are going to be picking up as well, high of 34 with an overnight low of 22. Hopefully mostly sunny and 35 for Friday. That is your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
I'll tell you what, she does a great job on the weather forecast. Gina Jameson, thank you very much. And brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. Really good, folks. By the way, don't forget Thursday's sale day at the Burley Livestock Sale Yard, 1100 Occidental Avenue in Burley. Number to call for cattle consignments and sale information, 678-9411. Merv, May, Cade, Rogge, Lance, Udy, the sale that works for you. 10 o'clock Thursday morning sale time, Burley Livestock Sale Yard. Don't you miss it. And by the way, too, a big thank you and shout out to our wonderful friends at Daryl's Cleaners. I still think I got some clothes over there. I forgot to pick them up before I left on my little vacation. Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley, and they are the best. I mean, you take your rumply crumplies in there and you go and put them on the counter, and you go, oh my goodness, I don't think they can ever make these look good. And then you go back and you pick up your clothes and you go, holy smokes, I didn't know I had these clothes. They look so nice and brand new. That's exactly what they'll do for you. Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. You stop in and see them today. A couple of notes that I've got to get on here real quick. A wonderful lady that has been a part of our lunch bunch for a long time. Her birthday is today, and we're going to wish her happy birthday again on Thursday at Lunch Bunch, and that's Dorothy Silcox. Dorothy, you are one of a kind, and God bless you. I just absolutely have more fun visiting with that lady, and I want to wish her a very happy birthday today, Dorothy. Congratulations. And also got a frog in my throat this morning, excuse me. The Minidoka and Cassia County Lincoln Day Luncheon is going to be held this coming Saturday, February 25th at Morey Steakhouse Convention Center. The meet and greet will take place at 11:30 in the morning with lunch at noon. And, of course, we're going to have the full program and an auction. And they're going to have Senator Kelly Anthon, Representative Fred Wood, Speaker Scott Bedke, along with a lot of other officials. Don't miss it. It's $25 a ticket. Tickets sold at the door. That is coming up this coming Saturday, and I'm looking forward to it. By the way, Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Throw the doors open at 7:30 till 5, Monday through Friday, for all your heating and electric needs. And a lot of you folks say, well, winter's over. No, it's too nice outside. No. Winter is not over. And the cold temperatures are not over. And don't let your furnace kind of shake and bake and rattle and roll down in the basement. Make sure you put some new furnace filters in there to make sure it works efficiently for you. Check them out today at Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. You know, I want to talk to you a little bit about what happened on that march that I thought was absolutely insulting and stupid against the employers of small businesses in this country. When they had that march the other day that was basically for a celebration, a day without Immigrants Day. In other words, they were celebrating, oh boy, would you be in tough shape without us immigrants? Why, you can't do without us. And so employees basically just walked off the job to go into the various marches and rallies and leave their employers high and dry. Now, employers of small businesses warned employees. They did. I've got a list of many from South Carolina clear to California and Washington, everywhere else. They warned their employees they would not be allowed to take off work to go to this event. But they did it anyway. And I would have, and they did, fire these people. They got fired. They got the pink slip. Adios, you're out of here. Don't ever come back again. And rightfully so. But the left, the insidious, stupid left, is now blaming the employers. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Zeb. People don't realize actually what's happening. Now, in Tamarack, Wisconsin, the city council has been taken over by these Muslims. Europe is being overrun with Muslims. Cuba is now getting its first mosque in there. What does that tell these people? They're out there demonstrating because they want more and more of these people pouring into this country that would soon take us over.
Well, it doesn't tell those people anything because those people, are not smart enough to understand the insidious actions of an ideology that is trying to take over the world with world dominance. So as far as telling these people anything, it can't and it won't because most of them are as bright as a burned out light bulb.
Once they infiltrate this city, they're getting free medical and free this. They're going to overpopulate. 20 years down the road, the United States will have to change its language.
Yeah. I'm
afraid that's going to happen.
I totally agree with you. I'm very, very worried about what's going on with actions across this great United States against our values, against our culture. And I honestly, Tony, I shake my head every day when I sit down and take notes on different newscasts and when I sit down early in the morning to make my program notes. I am appalled as to how naive and stupid we as a country have become to be led down this road that ultimately would lead us to ruin.
Well, we're slowly being surrounded by Muslims, and look what you got up there. Trudeau wanted to bring 25,000 of these people in Canada, who will eventually end up in our borders.
I'm going to be, like I said, talking more about that later on, but I want to extend to you and Mary this morning the very best to you, my dear friend. God bless you. We got to get together for breakfast, for heaven's sakes.
Anytime we are ready.
Okay.
We'll come down there. You won't have to bother driving up there. We'll come down the other place.
All right. God bless you, my dear friend. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thanks, Ed.
Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I want to continue the story on the employers being the bad guys now for firing employees that didn't show up for work. And I want your opinion on this. Stand by. Don't forget this Thursday we're going to have our lunch bunch at Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley. And that's, of course, America's Diner. The delicious, sizzling skillet meals. Have you had one of those? I'll tell you, I have. I love them. Or all the different buttermilk pancake breakfasts. I mean, it's absolutely phenomenal. You're going to love the food. You're going to love the service. You're going to everything about Denny's in Burley is absolutely great. Stop in and see them today, and don't forget our lunch bunch coming up at 11:30 on Thursday at America's Diner. Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley. You stop in and see them today. And also, I want to say thank you to some friends of mine, and I got to call them today. Hello, Nick. I'm going to call you later on today. And that's Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. Now, with me being gone for about 3 weeks, I absolutely got to get back in the saddle, figuratively and in reality, and start getting my legs exercised again like I was about a month ago. And that's all at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Number to call for an appointment helping you get back to being you, 678-1191. That number again, 678-1191, Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. Good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Welcome home.
Thank you, sir.
I hope you had a good vacation.
You know what? I got to be honest with you, sir. It was a God's blessing, and I mean that. My faith is very important to me, and what happened during the time off was so beneficial to my lovely bride and myself. It kind of rejuvenated me. It gave me a new look and a new outlook as to what I wanted to do on this program and where I was going to be headed. I thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Now, back to your parade. I'll call it a parade. My dad raised 14 kids. We worked with migrants, immigrants, through the harvest, what have you, the Indians, the Spanish, and so forth. We got along just fine. What do they mean, or anybody mean, that we can't do without them?
Yeah, here's my thought on that. I'm so glad you brought that point up. Let's discuss it a little bit. I don't care what group or what association it is. If we are bringing in illegals to perform a job, we had better look at our whole card and figure out how it can be legalized, and so that the United States of America is not paying out in welfare payments or anything else, and that there's a reciprocity for the income that they make that goes back into our tills, whether it's an H-2-1 or H-2A or H-2B program, I don't care. But you bring up a valid point. People that are in this country need to be working in a legal fashion so that all of us pay our fair share. Are you still there?
Yeah, I somewhat agree with you, but yet I don't. I think we should close the gate completely. I'm with Trump. I think we ought to close the gate completely.
Well, I don't think you and I are that far apart. I'm just saying that if anybody comes in here to do work or live here, I'm looking at it as a legal basis to where they apply for and go through the legal channels, and I don't want anybody crossing the border anywhere, north border or flying in from another country or coming across the south border. I think you and I both agree that there should be a legal extension for everyone.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I do. I agree with you on that.
All right, sir. Well, listen.
Okay, Zeb. Hey, you do a great job. We love you and miss you, and God bless you.
You're a very nice man. I appreciate that. Thank you very, very much. God bless. Thank you.
Trails.
Thank you. Happy trails to you, too. This all goes in accordance, and I appreciate that man talking about that subject matter. When I just can't imagine. At one time I had more employees, many more, but I can't imagine them as employees calling me up or not showing up for work and saying, well, we're going to go celebrate a day without immigrants. We're going to stick it in your face. We're going to show you how much you need us, but we're not going to show up for work. Well, a boat building company in South Carolina had 21 employees not show up for work the other day. They got fired. A paving company in Nashville, Tennessee, had 18 employees not show up for work the other day. They were fired. A restaurant in Oklahoma had 12 line cooks not show up, and they got fired. And now the stupid liberalism in this country, and it is stupid, is going after the owners of these companies, demanding that they rehire these people that they fired. Now, let's take the case of the restaurant. Okay, 12 line cooks did not show up for work. They got fired. Do you realize what that did to the hostesses and the servers and all the other people employed at that restaurant? It took them down to a zero for that day, no pay. Why? Because there was nobody to cook the food. One weak link in the chain caused disaster for people that probably needed those paychecks on a daily basis to try to put bread on their own tables. So the selfishness of these people that just absolutely didn't show up for work, and they were warned not to go. In almost every case, I've got the story right here in front of me. Every single employer told these people, if you leave and don't show up for work, you will be terminated. As it should have been. They didn't even call in, and they didn't even tell anybody that they were not coming. They just didn't show up. What are your thoughts as an employer? Do you agree or disagree that the employer should have fired them, kicked their tails out the door forever? Or are you one of the liberal-minded folks in this country? I hope not. That said, oh, those poor people, they need to get their jobs back. What are your thoughts? You call me and let me know on that. I'd like to hear what you have to say. Don't forget Barry Equipment and Rental. They have all the equipment to get the job done right. And they're telling you to think spring. Think spring and green grass. And don't forget to order your Walker mower. 0% for 48 months. Oh, use what the pros use and see the difference at Barry Equipment and Rental. And they've got locations on South Lincoln and Jerome, Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. Absolutely all the equipment rentals, retail equipment sales at Barry Equipment and Rental. Jerome, Twin Falls, and Burley. All right, it's your turn. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You know, I just can't imagine how these lefties, and now they're coming out and they're saying, well, you poor people, why, you were treated so unfair. How dare that employer fire you for not showing up for work? What? They were fired because they didn't go to work. They didn't hold up their end of the bargain when they were hired. You will show up from 8 to 5, 7 to 4, whatever the time might be. They didn't show up. Yeah, they got fired. Good for the employers. And by not showing up for work, they literally jeopardized everyone else working perhaps at that small business. Come on, I really want to know what your thoughts are. Give me a call on this. There's a lot of small business owners in this area. I'd like to hear how you would have reacted had they not called, not notified you, nothing, nada. I know myself personally, it wouldn't have been an option. No options other than adios. You're out of here. You're toast. Your thoughts. By the way, too, while I'm waiting for your phone call, don't forget our dear, dear friend over at Mount Harrison Audiology. Hello, Dr. Christine Pickup. I've got to make an appointment to get back over and see this lovely lady. And she knows all about sound. She knows all about hearing. And believe me, if you've noticed a little lack in hearing, she's the lady to go see because she knows all the intricate structures of the ear. And she knows all, like I said, about hearing and sound. She can help and will help you. So please call for an appointment today on a hearing screening at 312-0957. That number again, 312-0957. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, waiting right this moment to serve you. Give them a call today. Come on, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call. I really want your thoughts on this. I don't care what kind of a business you're in. If a restaurant business, devastating if employees don't show up. I mean, absolutely devastating. Whether it's a supply company store, whatever the case might be, give me your thoughts on this, please, at 436-2244. In another story that, while I'm waiting for you to call, this sickens me. And I'm going to be talking tomorrow to Dave Bego about a story about a church in Indianapolis that someone beheaded a statue of Jesus, not once, but twice. We'll talk to him about that tomorrow. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Yes, good morning, Zed Bell. This is Keith Ramsey.
Hello, Mr. Ramsey. How are you?
Yes, great, thank you.
What's cooking tonight? Big water meeting, right?
To remind your audience of the program tonight at the Burley King Fine Arts Center at the Little Theater at 7 to 9 p.m. Rex Jarrett will be speaking of the historic Oakley Dam flood of 1984. And I have a 17-minute video that I shot back then that actually shows the work that went on. And the public is invited. There's no charge to it. It's at the Burley King Fine Arts Little Theater, 7 to 9 p.m. this evening.
I'll tell you what, it's going to be a very informative meeting, and I know I've heard a lot of good comments about what you've put together and everything, and this whole meeting is going to be very beneficial at the Burley King Fine Arts, 7 to 9 tonight, right?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Real quick, while I've got you on the line, and I've got another caller waiting. Caller, I'll be there in just a second. Keith, as a former employer, what would your reaction be to what happened the other day with a Day Without Immigrants Day, where all of a sudden these people decided not to show up for work? Pink slip, or would you just let them go?
That's a hard decision because, as an employer, you have made promises to your customers.
That's right.
To have work done. And you're under contract to have that work done. And your employees should be under obligation to show up for work.
That's right.
And that's the bottom line.
Well, since when, let me ask you this question, I'm going to ask the next caller the same thing. Since when are employees going to be dictating whether they show up for work or not?
The sad thing is the society that we are a part of right now. The younger side of that society, when they come in and ask for a job or they interview for a job, they're more interested in the benefits that they receive and not the work that they do.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. My dear friend, tonight that big meeting at the King Fine Arts regarding water and flooding, and you've put together a wonderful tape on this, etc. It's going to be great. 7 o'clock tonight. Keith, God bless you, man. Thank you.
Thanks, Seb.
You bet. Thank you. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, good morning, Zeb. How are you doing?
I am fantastic, my dear friend. How are you?
Well, I am great. I lived that people not showing up for work for about 50 years of my life. You end up doing 2 and 3 and 4 people's work. And, I don't give a dang how good you are. Nobody's efficient enough to cover for people when they just don't want to come to work. And if it's for some reason that's ridiculous like this, I would say fire them all.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
No questions asked.
Jerry, I appreciate your comment, and I'm so glad to hear from you, my friend. It's been almost a month, and I haven't had a chance to say howdy to you, so thank you very, very much.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you had a good vacation.
I did.
Everybody needs one.
All right, sir.
Right.
Well, God bless you, Jerry. Thank you. And I mentioned...
Bye-bye.
All right, Jerry. Thank you. God bless you, man. Appreciate it. A dear, dear friend of this program and the Lunch Bunch, etc. Think of the restaurant back in Oklahoma. And here's the waitresses and everybody else connected to the business of that restaurant. They get a complete day of not being able to work, not being able to make any money. The waitresses with such short and absolutely ridiculously low wages as it is, relying on tips, and thanks to the 12 line cooks that absolutely at the last moment said, we're not going to show up. You bet I would fire them. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning. Awful interesting. The world still works off the 80-20 rule. I think 20% of the people do 80% of the work anyway. It's kind of interesting. As one point of an employer, you might be absolutely happy that you got rid of the 12 deadbeats that were holding their business down anyway. Very good possibility that was a blessing to them businesses to get rid of them deadbeats and get an opportunity for some people that wanted to work.
Right there.
It's sad that 1 out of 11 people are the only ones that really want to work and go to work asking, how can I do a good job to make more money for my employer so that they can pay me better?
Absolutely.
Wow, these guys owe me for going to work. But also I find it interesting in Keith Ramsey's opinion, when we're in a right-to-work state in Idaho here, we don't fit the mold of the rest of the country anyway. And so in a right-to-work state, and in every state, we as workers, for employers, we're the ones that run the show, and we make that decision to show up every day to work. And I agree, it's stupid. If we choose to work for somebody that we don't feel that way about, we should be going to work somewhere else. But if we're not giving 110% to our employers, why should they give it back to us?
And let me just throw this at you. Again, I want to reiterate that there were so many different companies, like a boat building company in South Carolina. They had contractual agreements with the boat purchasers to get the boats out on a certain period of time. The paving company in Nashville, they had contractual agreements with people to pave driveways, parking lots, etc. And they had 18 employees just not show up. But yet the next day they came back and they said, oh, all is well, I want to go back to work. I do not blame at all the employer at all for sending them a pink slip and saying, adios, amigo, I don't want to see you again.
Well, me neither. Me neither. That's why I say I would have welcomed it as an opportunity when they showed up the next morning to say, sorry, you didn't feel like our company was good enough to give 110% to. I found another employee to replace you.
But, it goes deeper than this, and I want your response on this. Our society today is so giving and so caring to the deadbeats of our society. Now, I want to clarify my words. There is a distinct need for welfare recipients in this country to receive help because a lot of them, health-wise, situation-wise, they can't work, and we need to help these folks over a period of time. However, you will agree with me, I'm sure, that there are a lot of deadbeats that are milking the system. And in this system today, it's too easy for people to give up a job to try to remain responsible.
I absolutely agree with you on the welfare issue, and I absolutely agree with you on the problem is we haven't enforced our laws, and we've let people come in from these other countries and take advantage of us, whether it's doesn't matter what country it is, Canada, all the countries that send people, that people come here from, are a lot of them here to take advantage of the fact that we are quiet-minded people and we try and do our best for ourselves and help other people. And so those people feed on us like vultures because they know that we're too busy going back to work to support ours and our own to make them fights. We don't have time to go to them parades because we're not being paid by parties more than we would be paid by going to work. And it's kind of sad they take advantage of the conservative-minded people out there because we're working.
Absolutely.
Working instead of fighting these stupid causes, because if they paid as much for our side to go put on these political rallies, there's just many of us that could show up for our Trump supporters if we were being paid twice as much as we were to work.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you so much for your comments.
Take advantage of us. They come to our country and take advantage of us, and I just think they're traitors, personally. But I think I have the right to stand on my soapbox. My family was here before this was the United States of America.
That's right.
We're true Americans.
Thank you.
And as we come out and settled out into the West 150 years ago, we brought in the United States of America mentality with us because we've been true Americans prior to that. So
I agree with you, and I want to say thank you.
Americans should go back to where they come from, and I think we should pay for a one-way ticket to get them all the hell out of here, and then there'll be plenty of work and plenty of people willing to do the work.
I agree with you in your comments this morning, and I appreciate your call for taking the time to be on the program. Thank you, sir. God bless you, man. Thanks. Caller number 2, I'm going to ask you to just be patient for 30 seconds. I'll be right there. Don't forget my dear friends, Cordell and Patty Sheridan, up on the hill. By golly, they're having their 22nd annual bull sale. These are problem-free cattle. It's going to be on March 4th, coming up. Sale starts at 1 p.m. at the Burley Auction Yard in Burley. Lunch provided at noon. They are going to be selling 85 head of ripping good bulls, free delivery up to 300 miles. And let me tell you, their breeding program up there at the Sheridan Ranch emphasizes calving ease, structural soundness, growth, and moderate frame cattle. Oh, you're going to love this bull sale. Please be there. March 4th, the 22nd annual bull sale for the Sheridan Ranch at the Burley Auction Yard starting at 1 p.m. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Morning, sir. In the words of our President Trump, my comment would be, you're fired.
I agree.
Yeah, in my younger days when I wasn't very, I was a little wild, and I got fired from a job for not showing up, and I survived, but I learned from it.
Yeah, but you probably weren't a pimple on the deadbeat list of society that stayed unemployed and really didn't care because you were going to milk the system.
This is true. There was my problem was there was a young lady, and you know how that goes.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, I'd fire him. You know, I've got a small business, and if somebody doesn't show up, if I had an employee and I depended on them, and they took a day off without first arranging it with me, I'm sorry.
Well, listen to this, Doug. One of the owners of the Encore Boat Builders in South Carolina that I was talking about a moment ago, he said that not only did these people break the company policy by not giving notice and not calling in to say they would be away from their jobs, the employees were given an opportunity to provide a doctor's note, but they failed to do even that. So why not get rid of them?
Exactly. That's exactly true. I mean, it's really sad what's happening. All of the pansies we've got out there and the snowflakes, it's really sad that the way they're thinking, this country could not operate without immigrants.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, there are enough people here. There are veterans here that can't find work, that are homeless. There are homeless mothers that can't find work, with their kids. We need to take care of ourselves. And yes, we are a country of immigrants. That's what the left keeps spewing, and I agree with them. We are. But the immigrants came here to be Americans. They didn't come here for a handout. They didn't come here to try to change this country into a country they just left. They came here to be Americans.
Well stated, my friend. And I've got another caller waiting, but Doug, good to hear from you as always. Thank you so much. You bet.
Remember, everybody, remember your senior centers.
There you go. There you go. Caller number 2, good morning. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Well, there's 95 million people in America that either can't find work or have part-time jobs. I don't know the exact stat, but I know this is, that these people that are looking truly want to find a job would do, lots of things. And when we say that there's jobs that you and I guess, as identified as white, who wouldn't do the job, I know plenty of whites that do the jobs because I see them. And so if somebody doesn't show up for work, it really puts an employer in a hell of a position. And but there has to be discipline. You can't play this game. We've been playing this game for 8 years where, it's gray. Well, I think the environment is changing and that gray is over with and that this will permeate our society, our families. Sure, there's tons of families out here that don't know what work is and have never worked and lived off welfare. But there's also people out here that want to work hard and do every day. And given a good wage, they would understand the importance of responsibility and then reward.
Yeah.
So, you don't show up, you're done.
I agree with it.
That's the thing. It's like, well, if I can get away with it, it's all right. Well, let's hope that kind of thinking is going away quickly.
Let me ask you this, though, Randy, and give me a short answer on this. I got to do a weather forecast. You're in the construction business, and let's say that you had 10, 20 employees, and you've got 3 or 4 jobs going on, and all of a sudden they don't show up. None of them show up for work at any of the 2 or 3 jobs that you have daily going on during the course of the week. And I, as a business owner that has hired you as a construction company to get my job done as fast as possible and efficiently, I drive by the work site and I see nothing going on because your employees decided that they were just going to thumb their nose at their employer and not show up. That puts a bad light on everybody.
Well, employees are you, and you're the one who hired them. And throughout the course of my week, when I'm talking to the business owners I deal with, I find that they say, just like yesterday,
one of the business owners I was talking to said, well, I've got employees that make me money. I've got employees that don't make me money, but in the end, I just get by. I break even, was the statement. Yeah. And I said to myself, now, can you imagine if you had employees that all made you money and how productive you would be? See, there's an opportunity for somebody to get a job, earn money, and then go out and create economics 101. You have money, you buy a home, you buy a car, you have a family. Yep. I said too much. Thanks, Deb.
Randy, God bless you, man. Appreciate it. Time for our weather forecast. Calls are welcome, by the way, too, on this subject. The weather brought to you this hour by the Urgent Cares. Riverview Urgent Care, 382 North Overland and Burley. Twin Falls Urgent Care, 2392 Addison Avenue East in Twin Falls. And Jerome Urgent Care, 133 West Avenue A in Jerome. Minor emergencies, major care. Whether you got a sinus infection or a cut that needs stitches, or maybe a sprain, or whatever the case might be. Minor emergencies, major care. They're open 7 days a week serving you, the Urgent Cares. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Looks like we still have that flood warning. It is in effect because temperatures are warming up. We've got a lot of melting going on, and, of course, more rain showers in the forecast for today. Looks like it's going to be windy as well out of the southwest, right around 26 miles an hour. We are expecting a high of 49 tonight, low of 32 tomorrow. Winds are going to be dying down just a little bit. Still cloudy, high of 39 with an overnight low of 25. Looks like possible snow showers for Thursday morning. Winds are going to be picking up as well, high of 34 with an overnight low of 22. Hopefully mostly sunny and 35 for Friday. That is your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
And thank you, Gina. Brought to everybody by the Urgent Cares, serving you and your family. Riverview Urgent Care Burley, Twin Falls Urgent Care Twin Falls, and Jerome Urgent Care in Jerome. Minor emergencies, major care. The owner of Bradley Coatings in Nashville, Tennessee said this. He said that his company works on tight deadlines and depends on employee attendance to meet its obligations. So here's the employer making a contractual agreement with the person paying the bills. And all of a sudden his employees don't show up, and they're 24 hours off on the supposed deadline. It puts the employer and his future business in jeopardy because he was not able to honor his word as a person that was hired to do the job. And these employees, I make no sympathy. I will not back up. And for you liberal loons out there in the audience, and there are some that live in this area, that think the employers should turn around and kowtow and bow to these employees and give them their jobs back. No, absolutely not. Hit the road, Charlie. You're done here. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call. I'd like to hear what you have to say. Hey, by the way, I've been, it's not bragging when it's a fact. I have been telling you the facts about how good Snake River Auto Body and Paint is at 404 4th Avenue West in Twin Falls with some really good people, dear friends, Ken, Dan, the whole crew at Snake River Auto Body and Paint. Number to call, 734-5790. Got a little ding in your four-wheeled Wonder? Well, they can fix it. You got a big ding in your four-wheeled Wonder? They can fix it. I'll tell you what, they'll give you an estimate, schedule for repair, and believe me, I've used them. I know how good they are. Snake River Auto Body and Paint, 404 4th Avenue West in Twin Falls, 734-5790. All right, calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. There's a story out of Indianapolis, Indiana. And when I first heard about this story, it was at 4 o'clock this morning on the national news. And for the second time in 2 weeks, members of a church on the south side of Indianapolis have found their Jesus statue beheaded. And this time, the head is gone from the rest of the statue and probably smashed. This is the second time. 2 weeks ago, whoever caused the damage left the head sitting next to the statue, and church members were finally able to reattach the head and do some painting and fixing up and got it all looking halfway right again. Well, then on Sunday morning before the church services, it was broken off again, and whoever did this heinous crime took the head with them. And they don't think it was kids. And they're absolutely almost certain it's an adult that could wield a great big sledgehammer to get this job done. This is a life-size statue of Jesus. And most of the congregate members think that it's somebody trying to send the church a message. What kind of a sick society are we living in? You know, I don't care what faith you are. I can't imagine somebody being sick enough, perverted enough, to do this not only once, but twice. And you got to look at today, the way things are going, and look at the slant against Christianity going on in this world. And you have to kind of sit back and go, oh no, another great big void in decency. There is no decency anymore. I'm convinced that right and wrong and morality are on the wane. And when I hear stories like this, it just sickens me. Your thoughts, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Oh, this is something else that should be mentioned here. A Michigan state senator and the president of the Detroit City Council, listen carefully here, they attended the annual convention of the Nation of Islam, a black supremacist group headed by notorious anti-Semite Louis Farrakhan. You know, Farrakhan. There's a real nut job for you. Once called Hitler a very great man, yes, and he railed against the Jews and called for a separate black nation in his speech at the convention on Sunday. Well, State Senator from Michigan, Bert Johnson, and Detroit City Council President Brenda Jones were among those on the stage with Louis Farrakhan during his speech. And then Farrakhan came out in his speech and said this, that I am here to announce today the end of this world and the beginning of a brand new reality, that all human beings will enjoy peace, freedom, justice, and equality under the rule of Allah. Then you wonder why I get so upset as to what's going on. And by the way, Minnesota Representative Keith Ellison, one of the front runners for the DNC chair, I hope he doesn't get it, I wouldn't want to see him appointed as dog catcher, has faced scrutiny over his past ties to the Nation of Islam. Ellison previously defended Farrakhan against anti-Semitism accusations, although he has since walked back his support for Farrakhan. Yeah, the only reason he walked back his remarks is because he wants the DNC chairman job. You know, there's a lot going on in our society, and you cannot in any way, shape, or form bury your head in the sand. We all need to be very active and protective of our nation, our culture, and our morality. Don't forget our dear friends at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Hello, all 7 locations this morning serving you. Oh, my goodness. 65 years of earning your trust. And like I've stated many times, it was my great honor years ago up in Prineville, Oregon, to have met Mr. Les Schwab. And what a man, what a business, what a growth, what a boon to not only the Northwest, but across the western United States. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers are a part of this Founders Celebration. And believe me, they've got the best of tires at the best of prices. They've got the best in brake service, the best in front end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries. Oh, my goodness, stop in and see them today during this Founders Celebration at your Les Schwab Tire Centers. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Poline in Twin Falls, and my buddy Randy on Overland in Burley, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Well, coming up next hour, I'm looking forward to a great segment with Frosty Woldridge out of Golden, Colorado. And then we're going to be talking at 9:30 to John Zamirak. You know, John was really against Trump, but now, after the election, he's starting to get on the bandwagon a little bit because he likes what Trump is doing. At 10:06 this morning, Dr. History, and I believe it's going to be long distance. He's down in St. George, Utah, where they've really been getting a lot of rain lately. And then at 10:32 this morning, Pacific Legal Foundation attorney Tony Francois, and all of this and much, much more right here on Zeb at the Ranch. Real quick reminder, Minidoka and Cassia County Lincoln Day Luncheon to be held this coming Saturday, February 25th at Maury's Steakhouse Convention Center. Meet and greet at 11:30, lunch at 12 noon. I'll be there. Deanne will be there. We're going to have a good time with all of our legislators. Going to be great. $25 tickets purchased at the door. Right now, we're going to send it back over to my itty-bitty buddy Wheels, and then we'll be back in about 7 minutes. Okay, here we go. Rock and roll. My goodness sakes, on a Tuesday. Welcome aboard Zeb at the Ranch, brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers like Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
Always at your disposal. How true. Call Western Waste Services. I mean, whether you need dumpsters, they've got them in various sizes. Fill them up. You're cleaning out the garage. You're cleaning out the basement. I might even be cleaning out my office. Anyway, call for the dumpsters. They've got, of course, the garbage pickup weekly, and, of course, they've got the storage containers. I'm telling you, they've really got service to you because they always are at your disposal. Western Waste Services, 734-6969. Don't forget, every morning we start the program at 8:06 with our weather forecast, brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design at 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for that blue door. Whatever you need to make your house a home at Cheney Flooring and Home Design. By the way, as you know, livestock is very, very important to me, whether it's dogs, whether it's horses, whether it's cattle, or whether cats. Yeah, okay, Deanne likes cats. Well, Ark Animal Hospital at 750 21st Street in Heyburn, they have warm hearts for cold noses. Don't forget Dr. Bill, Dr. Liz, the rest of the staff at Ark Animal Hospital, a mixed animal practice, meaning big or small. They love them all. And February is Animal Dental Month. 20% off on the dental procedures. You better believe it. Ark Animal Hospital. Super nice people. 750 21st Street in Heyburn. One of my dearest friends on the phone with me right now, and I so much... Oh, wait a minute. There's that throat. What do you mean, Wheels?
I was just going to say, this morning when we talked, I actually thought it over, and I believe it's actually Frosty Woolridge that is out for the week because he had went skiing, and so he had let actually Sharon know about that last week.
You realize, of course, somebody is going to be whipped with a wet noodle for not letting me know.
I know, and I in the beginning I thought at first it was Dave, but I actually remembered that it was Sharon who had talked to Frosty, and he had said he was going to be out for the week.
Remember last hour when we talked about hiring and firing?
Yes.
Pay heed to those words, my friend. All right, thanks, Wheels. I appreciate it. Thanks much.
You're very welcome, sir.
Well, that just left me in a kind of a lurch for this morning. I did not know that Frosty was not going to be available, and I suggest that you give me a call. We'll have an open forum right now, and the number to call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a jingle. I'd love to talk to you about anything you want to talk about, and give us a jingle on the landline. You know, there was a letter in the paper this morning by a lady over in Buell by the name of Sue Har. And her headline on her paper story was "Time to Embrace the Popular Vote." Now, I'm just going to read some of her letter, which is, in my opinion, completely wrong, completely left, and void of a lot of thought about our electoral college. And she says, as to the electoral method of counting American votes, whether you are 2 or 92, Republican or Democrat, black, white, or polka dot, plain or old common sense must tell you that leaving 2.9 million votes on the table in any election is somewhat like eating pig's feet. Yeah, I know, it's her letter. Anyway, it's just not right, she says. The popular vote does away with gerrymandering, an alternate fact word for cheating. Thank you, Sue. Stacking the deck in a dictator's favor. Dictator's favor? You know, I find that highly offensive. Sue Har is a more intelligent woman than that, and I find that her words are lacking in clarity and common sense. And she said stacking the deck in a dictator's favor is the way it's done in third world countries. The Electoral College has outlived its usefulness. Time for change. A count of the popular vote leaves less room for stacking that deck to the left or right. Webster, let me see what she's got here. Webster can then take the word gerrymandering out of their American dictionary. Think about it. The Electoral College left 2.9 million votes unaccounted for. Does that sound anywhere near correct to you? Sue Har Buell. I get upset when I read letters like this because it lacks common sense and it lacks clarity. Evidently, Sue does not realize the common sense of the Electoral College to give a voice to you and me and other voters and citizens in what are to be considered flyover states. And just think about this for a second. Supposing the masses of people that reside, in Los Angeles, San Francisco, Portland, Seattle, Chicago, Dallas, Philadelphia, New York, etc., only their mass votes really could sway the election. And that's why the Electoral College was developed, to give a voice to the states with the least in population. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. You're right on. That's why the Electoral College was to give the flyover states the wisdom of our founding fathers. If you take this last election, you take out Los Angeles County and New York City, that county, Trump won the popular vote by 500,000 votes. Mm-hmm. So, and that we know there was tremendous voter fraud. It's estimated at least 800,000 illegal votes that were cast. And the city of Detroit, there was all kinds of... so this popular vote thing, just like the direct election of senators was a mistake. When that amendment was added, gave the senators originally were set to represent states' rights and were selected, of course, by the representatives of the states. The state legislature, in other words, would select the two senators on an alternating basis. And but, of course, the 17th Amendment, we went to a direct vote, so the senators every 6 years have to trump up and down the state instead of
doing their wares with the people's representatives at the state. But it would be a big, big mistake. And, of course, the left is definitely pushing this because they know that they want all of these illegals to come in here, registered Democrats, and they also, of course, fight any kind of voter ID registration.
Well, wait a minute. Adrian, wait. Let's have a give and take here for a minute. Let me get in here. What people like Suhar over in Buell fail to recognize is that because of the sanctuary cities problem, because of the mass immigration of illegals and the populace of like the Los Angeles and the San Francisco areas, they absolutely, like you were stating a few moments ago, can control and dictate who is going to be the leadership in this country. And the rest of the nation, Idaho, Nevada, Utah, Montana, be damned. They couldn't care less about votes from us because it's already controlled in your major metropolises.
Well, it's definitely true. The other thing that really concerns me, and I know you probably discussed this, is the fact that there's a Senate bill now, 102, in the State House up here to call for an Idaho call for a Article 5 Constitutional Convention. And that thing has been bannered around year after year. Unfortunately, Speaker Bedke and Sidaway, Archer, and some others are now promoting it. Will be a bill come up in the House. The legal people, all the law professors, I don't care, you name the law school, and they all say you can't limit the agenda. But when you look behind the scenes, George Soros' front groups are pushing this thing. Way back in the early 70s, we had the Equal Rights Amendment, and they were going to use the same process to open up the Constitution. Basically, as you well know, Zeb, we only have had one constitutional convention. That was to revise the Articles of Confederation.
That's right.
And they totally scrapped those and voided them out, abolished them, and we came up with what we have today. Of course, it's been amended, and some of those amendments, like the direct election of senators, were bad, and the income tax and some others. But the idea that we have wise men like Washington and Madison, Franklin, to put together a new constitution, I mean, it would be a total disaster. They can't limit the agenda. Everybody says, oh, we're just going to do this balanced budget thing. And even that's a ruse because, as you know, the balanced budget amendment can be balanced by just raising taxes.
That's right.
And if we get into war, it's excluded. So if we get into a war, which we basically have going right now with Islam and ISIS and so forth.
Well, wait, whoa. Adrian, give me a chance here, please. What a lot of people need to know that, and some people overlook the fact, and I know probably some of your neighbors and people that you talk to daily, this is not, underline the word not, the first time that the Electoral College has taken precedent. It's the fourth time in our nation's history, and some of the left, some of the liberals, some of the crybabies, which make up the left, they are saying, wow, this is terrible, this is the first time it's ever happened. No, it's not. You know it's not. The Electoral College has served the public the way it should 4 times in our presidential election.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, like I say, they're just poor losers, and now all of a sudden the media's come out and saying, well, Trump hates the media so much that he's going to maybe do an act of terrorism against the fake media.
Yeah.
And, what that precludes is what Hitler did with the Reichstag building. He blamed the Soviets, the Russians, for that bombing when, in fact, his men were the ones that locked the doors and burned it down and killed his own people.
Well, wait a minute, though, Adrian. The line
is that these globalists want a one-world government so bad that they will stoop to kill innocent men and women to accomplish their goal, and of course blame Trump for it. But at the same same thing with the Electoral College. They will not give credit to the fact that he won this election fair and square, despite the voter fraud. Us deplorables that went out to the polls told Washington establishment Republicans, and they're still, basically sitting on their hands on certain issues. And Trump's trying to move forward, and they're sitting back saying, "Oh, I don't know if we want to do that." They got no spine.
Well, hang on a second, Adrian. Wait a minute. The line that offended me the most in this letter by Sue Har, and it should have been offensive to anyone that is of clear mind and thought and honest in their values. She said stacking the deck as if the Electoral College was illegal. She said stacking the deck in a dictator's favor, calling Trump a dictator and insinuating that he was a dictator even prior to taking office and listening to what he was going to try to put forth. I find that totally offensive that we would call the president-elect a dictator. I don't think anybody in my shoes or your shoes called Obama a dictator after 30 days in office.
Well, absolutely. And of course, the left is still not acknowledged the fact that Hillary lost, and they couldn't accept that. He was supposed to win in a landslide. Trump wasn't even supposed to get the nomination.
Yeah.
But, the message he had, the main message is to stop this inflow of people from Syria and the different, bringing in these Muslim Islamic people that terrorists are among these people. We don't have now, if you saw the Sunday paper, we're having a housing crisis.
Yep.
Because there's no place to put these people. And you know who's picking up the tab for their housing?
We are.
That's good taxpayers.
We are. I've got to get a commercial break in here, Adrian. But what I want to do is get you on this program out here in the studio in the next couple of weeks to talk about this. But short answer. Don't go on a long dissertation with this. But people like Sue Har over in Buell, what they need to do is honestly sit down with a copy of our Constitution and study it before they put letters out saying that the deck was stacked in favor of a dictator. That was highly offensive and, quite frankly, stupid.
I totally agree. And what's really sad is American history. Jesse Waters on the Fox News last night on Riley. People that couldn't even identify the faces of Lincoln and Washington.
Oh, I know it.
Heck, they didn't have a clue who these people were.
I know.
This tells you a lot about our education, and you've discussed that a lot, but this is sad. We don't study the Constitution. It's been neglected. American history has been neglected except the revisionist history.
No, I agree.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning.
You bet.
Appreciate it. Appreciate your stand against all this nonsense.
All right, Adrian. God bless you, man. Thank you much. Caller number 2, I'll be right there. Don't go away. I promise I'll be right there. Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert with our dear friend Joel Heward, his family, and his staff, always there to serve you with the most flexible hours, and of course also being able to travel and meet with you in the rural towns and rural churches to help you with all the arrangements when there's the passing of a loved one. And they always treat you with the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. These are people that care, and they want to serve you. Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. The number to remember, 436-5636. That number again, 436-5636. Hanson Mortuary, serving you and your family. Caller, thank you for your call. Go ahead, please.
Yes, you said dictator, and John McCain implied that Trump was enabling himself to be a dictator, and John McCain knows better.
Yep.
I mean, it is so chicken, you-know-what, that he says such a thing. But, you see, Lindsey Graham, John McCain, I guess they're just frustrated because their egos are they're not getting enough attention. And it's just such a destructive thing. And you say to yourself, well, how much power do they have? Well, I don't know. Maybe none. And I'm hoping that's the case. But you see, when the left has no options, like I said yesterday, They have their playbook has one play, Zeb, and they don't play in it. And you know as well as I do, the people that voted for Trump, the independents that are seeing what he's doing and he's following through and keeping his promises, this is creating more and more believers than who voted for him. And so I just know that the desperation and the panic on the left, and I know I'm repeating myself, but, you know, when these news organizations are declaring war on Trump, I really think to myself, you know, it's laughable because they're really cutting their own throats. But they have no other option.
You know, and it's really interesting, Randy, that this morning I was listening to a news story about what they call PESD. It's post-election syndrome that these poor Democrats, they just can't get over it. They're all befuddled, and they don't know what they're going to do. They're so frightened and terrified that Trump won the election. You know what? Put your big boy and big girl pants on and start acting like adults. If you didn't like the election, you don't like the politics, work hard to change the system, but do it within the system instead of being a bunch of damn crybabies.
Well, listen, since World War II ended, 70 years, they have been progressively undermining the very fabric of our country, our families, our social network, our, you know, the things that made us great. And finally, we'd had enough. And when Trump goes into these federal agencies and he backs these you know, traitors, it's going to be a bloodbath like you ain't seen before. But you see, once they're gone, they're gone.
Yeah.
And so they're going to, like I say, I know I'm repeating myself, but liberalism, communism, socialism, environmentalism is going to be set back on its behind like you ain't believed, and they know it. And what they thought they had, if they went, think about it, it was a tipping point with it. With Hillary wins, you and I and the patriotic America is, you know what, screwed. But otherwise, now you and I see the sun's coming out here, and so is the sun coming out on America.
Amen. Hey, I appreciate your remarks this morning. Thank you very much. You know, when I look at this rally that they had about not my President's Day, and all the time, and the effort, and the money, and the taking leave of absence of their jobs, if any of them work and are helpful in our American system, which many of them are nothing more than a waste of time. Why? Why? I mean, if you want to change what's going on in America, work within the system, work within the party, work within yourselves as groups. But why did they go out and destroy? Why did they go out and burn? Why did they do the stupid things that they do? You know, I have no respect, and I mean zilch none, for the absolute idiocy that was shown to us a couple of weeks ago in Berkeley, California, with these masked marauders, masked criminals that should have been bopped over the head with a billy club and hauled off to jail, burning and destroying because they didn't like a conservative speaker. This is so repulsive, what we're letting happen to America. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Don't forget, let's ride 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the entire world. Oh, my, they've got all your snowmobiles. Yes, sirree, buddy, and they've got the timber sled systems. You know, that's the snow bike conversion kit. Still plenty of time left, I'll tell you, to head up in the hills. And then, of course, all the four-wheelers. And then, of course, the great accessory department and a great service department. They really will take care of you. Let's ride 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the world, and it's true, this is where the fun is sold. Really, really good, folks. And when you're over in that area, you know what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about some friends of mine. I got to call them, by the way, a little bit later on this morning. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Now, the number to call for life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits, 436-4424. They are very accessible and devoted to serving you, and they're waiting for a call for an appointment today. 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Nice, nice people. In just a moment, we're going to have one of my favorite guests on this program, and that's, of course, John Zemurek is going to be here in just a moment. We're looking forward to having him come on the program, always with an interesting segment. Want to remind you that Minidoka and Cassia County Lincoln Day Luncheon is going to be held this coming Saturday as I rip the papers apart here on the desk, and that's going to be February 25th at Maury's Steakhouse Convention Center. And the meet and greet starts at 11:30, lunch at 12 noon, and, of course, our legislators, Senator Kelly Anthon, Representative Fred Wood, Speaker Scott Bedke, along with all the local officials are going to be there. It's going to be a really good gathering. Tickets are $25 each and can be purchased at the door. We will see you there on Saturday. Don't forget that, okay? Let's go to the phone line right now, and I enjoy this man. He writes for the stream, and he's always got a little stimulating thought in all of his writings. Hello, John Zemurek. How are you? Is he there?
He should be. Give me one moment.
All right. Hurry, Wheels. Waiting for John Zemurek to get on our program this morning. Is he there now? Evidently.
Go ahead, sir.
Good morning, John. How are you today?
Good morning. I'm okay. I'm outside with my dogs, unfortunately, the way the timing worked out, so I hope it's not too loud out here.
No, as a matter of fact, it's not bad at all, except we'll have to be careful not to talk over each other. John, your latest piece in the stream was called Trump Bashing, the Media Channels, America's Disgust with Its Own Elites. Why don't you just take the ball and tell me what you meant by that headline?
It was Trump bashing the media. In other words, Trump is himself bashing the media in order to channel ordinary Americans' rejection of these self-appointed elites that dominate in America, the same people who said he could never win the nomination, could never be president, and who are now saying he is not legitimately president.
Okay. Now, you yourself, and you told me this on one program about a month or so ago, you yourself have had kind of an epiphany, and you hated Donald Trump, so to speak, didn't want him to be president, but now there are certain things that he's done with his cabinet and also some of his direct orders that you certainly are behind. Is that not true?
I didn't hate him. I didn't think he could win. I hated the idea of Hillary Clinton being president, and I thought, because I believed the media narrative, that he would lose to her. And so I felt like he was almost the spoiler candidate, kind of like Bernie Sanders. I was wrong, okay? But the idea of him being president just struck me as impossible. And so I thought we were throwing away a good chance to stop Hillary Clinton. But boy, was I wrong.
Well, right or wrong is irrelevant because Trump is coming in as a non-politician. He's coming in as one of the strongest businessmen ever in American history, and he's looking at people right in the eye, like the media, and he's telling them, hey, you're not doing a fair job. You're not doing a good service to America. What are your thoughts about the way he has talked about CNN, ABC, etc.?
I think his comments are mostly fair, and they're going to be popular. I think the media are in a self-replicating elite. They're in a little circle where they validate each other, where they can get away with enormous political bias. They can fire people just for their ideas. They can censor people just because they disagree with them. They ignore stories just because they don't like them. I mean, look at how Trump highlighted that women's march that took place the day after his inauguration. got enormous wall-to-wall media coverage and was treated with the grave seriousness as if it were Martin Luther King's March on Washington, which it wasn't. And as he pointed out, there's going to be a pro-life march here next week, which every year has more people than this march that you're covering. But you people won't cover it. You won't even call it a pro-life march. You never do.
Yeah.
That's amazing to have a president to say that. George W. Bush would have been too gentlemanly to say it. So would Mitt Romney. We can't be playing by Marquis of Queensberry rules when the opponent has brought a switchblade and a blackjack into the boxing ring.
John, what did you think the other day when you heard a representative of CNN News stand up and say over the airwaves that in regards to Trump and his press conferences, the fix is in?
I think he is whining that Trump is going to pick unfriendly reporters, which is something every president does, which the Obama administration did ruthlessly. So these people really don't expect to lose. If you fight back, if you play by their rules, they think you're cheating. It's like you ever watch the Harlem Globetrotters?
Yes.
They come out and they kick the butts of this other team because the other team follows all the official rules of basketball and they ignore them. That's how it's been. Conservatives have gone out and played by the rules and gotten beaten duly, gotten our butts kicked, while the other team whistles and does tricks and spoons the basketball on their fingers. And now it's as if the Harlem Globetrotters were suddenly facing the Croatian Olympic basketball team that's playing to win.
Yeah. John, in your opinion, and I respect your thoughts because you're very open and honest about what happened and what didn't happen, but now as far as the media is concerned, with Trump giving them a tongue lashing, verbally insulting them right into their faces, will this thing eventually settle down, or is the hatred going to create a bigger chasm like the Grand Canyon for all 4 years of this man's presidency?
I think the only way the chasm could possibly be reduced for any Republican president, but especially one like Trump, who wants to do things on cultural issues like immigration, the only way to get rid of that chasm is to surrender on the issues. So if he were willing to just give in and do what the left wants, then they would be nice to him. Other than that, they're going to show the same kind of ideological hatred and closeness to debate that they showed to Milo when he started speaking at Berkeley, California. These are the people who defend campus riots that suppress free speech. These are the people who won't report on the March for Life. These are the people who would not report on the Planned Parenthood videos and who, when they were given a piece of public relations that falsely claimed those videos were debunked, they ran with that story, and they never mentioned it again. In fact, someone on CNN talked about the Planned Parenthood videos. The host said, no, those were debunked, and shut off the guy's microphone this past week. So this is fake news. This is biased news, right up there with Pravda under the Soviet Union, and I think it's great that Trump called it out. It takes someone like Trump, who is president of the United States, to challenge an institutional corruption that is this entrenched.
Let me ask you the reverse of the question I asked you a moment ago. Can, in your opinion, knowing Trump with his bombastic remarks and his straightforward personality, can he be a successful president without the media behind him?
Oh yeah, he just needs to build up that alternative media, going around them. And I think more people are going to be reading Breitbart. More people are going to be reading wild stuff on Twitter, some of which will be real, some of which will be exaggerated. There's just not going to be a gold standard you can go to where you can absolutely trust that there's an unbiased source there. There is no more unbiased media. Everything is now an editorial page. It's unfortunate that the left did it, and we're gonna do it right back to them.
Now, you've had a chance, I'm sure, with all your writings and your study of what's going on, you've had a chance to really look at the people and the personalities involved in the possible formation and finalization of the Trump administration. What are your thoughts? I'll tell you right up front, I like almost 90% of his picks.
I do. There have been a few people I would quibble with because I think a little bit of establishment Republican influence has been exerted on Trump, and I would like to see that rolled back, But I'm still comparing everything to what Hillary Clinton would have done. But I guess once he's president, it's time to say, is he doing better than Jeb Bush would have done? Is he doing better than John Kasich would have done? And anywhere he's doing the same thing that they would have done, we should have a little bit of scrutiny because maybe he's been slipped a name of someone who's not actually on his agenda. Like his labor secretary has in the past defended immigration amnesty and talked about the need for America has for cheap labor. I don't think Donald Trump knew that. I don't think he's been getting the best advice. So I want Trump to be Trump, and I want him to keep his promises, like the promise of signing an executive order protecting religious freedom for Christians against gay persecution.
Absolutely.
We just saw this woman, Barronelle Stutzman in Washington State, is going to lose her home and her pension because she wouldn't do the flowers for a gay wedding.
Yep.
And she's going to lose everything she owns to pay court costs to the American Civil Liberties Union. Donald Trump can act to change that. He can sign the First Amendment Defense Act, as he promised to do during the campaign. So I'm not looking at Trump uncritically. I think I want him to keep his promises to Christians in America, not just on the Supreme Court, but on religious liberty.
Let me throw this at you, John. When Obama ran back in 2008 for the presidency, myself and others that were highly critical of him as a lackadaisical senator from Illinois, we were branded as racist. Now, some of the remarks that we're hearing about Donald Trump from the left, about how he will not serve a full term as president, or he will be a short-term president, those are almost ominous and threatening, like they're almost calculating that he won't be alive to serve. How afraid are you of some of the remarks coming from the left and news agencies?
I'm nervous about it, and I think it's kind of unfortunate that he had to pick a president like Vice President like Pence, who was more to the center, just because I like what Nixon did when he picked Spiro Agnew. He said it's impeachment and assassination insurance because they don't like me. They sure as heck don't want him. I can see some of these people thinking they could bully Mike Pence. They could bulldoze Mike Pence. Mike Pence has caved in the past under pressure. I think Donald Trump is a very important person right now for the future of America, and I think he needs to be very carefully protected both against physical and frivolous impeachment threats. I think our country's fate rests on how this administration goes.
With the executive orders and literally almost the first month of his presidency now a part of history with what he wants to do, what he's already started to do, what are your thoughts about what he said as a candidate versus what he is doing now as a president?
I think he's keeping a lot of his promises on immigration, on national security. I want to see what he does on Obamacare. I want to see what he does on religious liberty. Right now, he's keeping in place some outrageous executive orders that Barack Obama signed, which distorts and perverts the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and pretend that it covers gay couples and transgender people. Now, you and I know the legislators in 1964 did not intend to cover sexual orientation and transgenderism when they signed the Civil Rights Act.
That's right.
But the Obama administration said that its position was that's what those laws meant. That's being used against Christian colleges, Christian employers, Christian-owned businesses, and the Trump administration was going to reverse it, and then they changed their mind. And the rumor is that Ivanka talked her father out of it. Well, I'm sorry, the presidential daughter is not in the Constitution, and he needs to keep his promise to the 78% of evangelicals who voted for him. Otherwise, he would never have gotten the nomination or won the election. I can tell you what, it wasn't the gay lobby that put Donald Trump in the White House.
That's right. That's exactly right. Now, let me ask you this final thought here, John, as we've talked about the media, we've talked about Trump, but then also the Republican Party itself. They are on the brink of the abyss with their heels on the edge. If they don't perform and do what the public wants this time, I think they will be the party that's the has-been in the future. Your thoughts?
I think if they try to treat Trump as some weird aberration they can contain and turn into an establishment Republican and ignore the issues that he ran on, what they'll be doing is laying the groundwork for a third party in 4 or 8 years. If they try to make Trump govern like Jeb Bush, I don't think he'll do it. If they try to cripple his administration for doing it, I think he'll fight, and I think you'll see him back all sorts of people in Republican primaries and knock out the legislators who are frustrating him.
John, I always look forward to having you on the air. Take care of your dogs. Have a wonderful day, and I'll have you back in the future. Thank you so much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you. John Zemerick, writing for The Stream, talking about Donald Trump, the media, and America's disgust with the way the media is treating political news today. Very interesting. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. And I'll take your calls right after we have the weather. And the weather is brought to you by Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. Now, I got to tell you right up front, these people are the professionals. They are the CPAs that can help you with your tax return preparation, tax planning, financial statement preparation, retirement planning. They know, and they can help you. 2 locations to serve the Magic Valley, 1710 Overland and Burley, and 625th Street in Rupert. Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. CPAs, the professionals. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Looks like we still have that flood warning. It is in effect because temperatures are warming up. We've got a lot of melting going on and, of course, more rain showers in the forecast for today. Looks like it's going to be windy as well out of the southwest, right around 26 miles an hour. We are expecting a high of 49. Tonight, low of 32. Tomorrow, winds are going to be dying down just a little bit. Still cloudy, high of 39 with an overnight low of 25. Looks like possible snow showers for Thursday morning. Winds are going to be picking up as well, high of 34 with an overnight low of 22. Hopefully mostly sunny and 35 for Friday. That is your weather for Zeb at the Radio.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you. Thank you very much, Gina. I appreciate it. And the weather brought to you by Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. You know, it's that time of the year. It is that time of the year. Tax time, and you want to be working with the best serving you. Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. 2 locations, 1710 Overland and Burley and 625th Street in Rupert. All right, calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a jingle on the landline. I would love to visit with you. Right on cue. Good morning. How are you today?
Yeah, Mr. Bell, I got a question. I listen to your political stuff I'm sick of. I'd like to know what makes old skinhead down there in Arizona, what makes him such a war hero when he crashed a $25 million jet? I trump that jungle every day.
You know, I'll be honest.
Such a hero.
You know, okay, let's just talk about this. I'm not going to deride or belittle anything that happened in John McCain's Vietnam career. I'm not going to do that because he was in the Vietnam War. He was serving our country. He was captured, and he served time in a POW camp. But I will say this. I respect the fact that he served his country like many of our soldiers, our brothers and sisters, and everyone else over a long period of time from World War I all the way up to modern day. But I am not going to stand by and let his political viewpoints overshadow the fact that I think he's wrong on a lot of things that would be a benefit to America. I am going to criticize John McCain. I have said that I think he's been way too long a senator. I've talked to many people in the state of Arizona that wished he would go out to pasture. I really have a hard time trying to find people when I was down in Arizona that support him. I am a little bit taken aback that he is still a senator.
Yes, sir, I agree with you 100%. I agree with you 100%. And then let's say this, if I may. All those jungle rats are heroes. When we going to get the recognition of a hero?
You know, in my opinion, anybody that puts on the uniform, and I've said this before on my program, I was for F. I was not accepted by the military. I tried to get in, they would not take me. I have nothing but utmost respect for those that serve our country regardless of the circumstances, regardless of the position, and regardless of what branch of the service. To me, all of you are heroes.
Sir, let me say one thing more, if I may ask. I go to the VA hospital in Salt Lake, Marmarsville. I don't go every day. I've missed more appointments than God only knows because of transportation and pride. What if they turn that VA hospital into American Legion and let us veterans, combat veterans, go to any doctor we desire? It's costing the taxpayer the same amount of money.
Now, I agree with you on the fact that the VA needs to be absolutely looked at, studied, and revamped. And the new administrator that they've just put into that position, I think, is going to do a much better job. God bless you for your service, and thank you for your call this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Bell.
Thank you, sir. Caller, go ahead. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb.
Yes, sir.
In my opinion, I feel that people don't realize the real reason how come Trump got elected. And in my side, he got elected because he's not a regular Joe everyday politician. He keeps his word. He's done what he's trying to do what he said he would do, what he promised us he would do. He's hardworking. He's not afraid to back up a fight. He's not afraid of it. He's what we've been needing and what we've been wanting. And people are irritated. And from what I see, they're irritated because they're not getting their way with him.
No, I agree with that.
Able to persuade him, well, you give in on this and we'll do this.
Yeah.
No, it's not the way he runs. And I really like that a lot in him.
I agree with you, Riley, that there hasn't been any capitulation. I'm not going to say that there won't be a changing of attitude on certain issues in the future, but when Obama said regarding Syria that if they cross this and they do this with chemical weapons, that's the red line that is not going to be crossed, that was a bunch of balderdash. It was nothing more than rhetoric from an administration that had no backbone. I am now convinced that with Trump, this administration has a backbone to not capitulate to our enemies.
Well, that's exactly what we need. We need someone who will stand up, who's got the moxie and the guts to say, playtime's over. I mean what I mean, and he's doing what he said he'd do.
Absolutely.
It frustrates the holy crap out of me. Whether they're Republican or Democrat, it does not matter. They're only out for their self-interest and not the interest of the nation, and it is obvious.
Yep.
And Donald Trump has had enough of it. And I have to remind some people every now and again that Trump cannot be bought off. The only person who could possibly buy Donald Trump off is Donald Trump himself. But he won't. He's too much of a go-getter and a hard worker. He's not going to give in to special interest groups. He's just not going to do it. It's not in the best interest of his country and his fellow Americans. And I really, really like this guy, the way he started out.
All right, Riley, I appreciate your opinion and also your call. Thank you so much. God's blessings to you. Thank you. Thank you. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You know, you take the Mitch McConnells and you take the likes of the now fading into the horizon Harry Reid, those kind of politicians. They sit in the corner and they gnash their teeth, they tear out their hair at the likes of a non-politician businessman like Donald Trump. And personally, I love it. Every time I pick up the newspaper or I turn on the news or whatever, and I see that the left is just, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? That's great. Because I love the idea that Trump is not a politician. I love the idea that he's doing things in an unorthodox manner. And literally turning the apple cart upside down. I love this. You should too, because it's actually helping the whole situation. We were in a rut. I mean, politically speaking, it was the same old, and there was hardly any differentiation between Republican or Democrat. Everybody followed the party line. Everybody did this and that to get reelected. And then along came Trump. And the whole thing has just been, there's a new sheriff in town, and you better rearrange the act. I love this guy. I do. You might think I'm crazy, but I love the attitude of changing the entire structure of the political landscape. No more same old, okay? Calls welcome. Quickly, give me another call. I'd like to hear what you have to say. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Real quick note while I'm waiting for your call. Yes, Thursday will be Lunch Bunch Day at Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner, 611 Overland in Burley. And our thanks to all the people that have arranged all the gift certificates. And Deanne, do you have that list for me out there? And I want to thank Smith's Foods, and I want to thank Walmart, and I want to make sure we get everybody on there. But Hanson Mortuary and others, we'll make a complete list and thank them en masse tomorrow morning on the program. But Lunch Bunch at 11:30 this Thursday. Don't miss it. We've had some weather problems in the last month or so, and we've had a hard time getting together. So let's make this a real big one on Thursday at Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley, America's Diner. Going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. Okay, what else have I got for public service announcements? I had something else here this morning that Deanne had handed me that I've got to take care of, and where is it? Wilson Theater. Coming up on Saturday, February 25th, and that's this coming Saturday, the 15th Annual Wilson Theater Fundraiser Gala. And the theme is When the Lights Go Down at the Wilson Theater. So that's coming up at this coming Saturday, 15th Annual Wilson Theater Fundraiser Gala. Don't miss that. We are going to take a break for a little bit, and about 6-7 minutes. Wheels is at the controls over there, going to bring in CBS News, and then we'll come back with Dr. History, and at 10:30, Pacific Legal Foundation, Tony Francois. Don't go away. Oh, here we go. Hour number 3. Zeb at the Ranch on a Tuesday, January 21st. And, of course, brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And, of course, some of our great advertisers like Western Way Services, always at your disposal. Call them, get on the route service, 734-6969. You know, I am very, very honored to have a dear friend in Dr. History, and he is coming up next, and it's brought to you by Minnecasia Sales, 1321 East Main Street in Burley with Zach and the whole crew right across from the airport. And the number to call, 878-2091. If you need an overhead door, they've got them. And the interior doors, I know because I bought one from them. And they've got all the windows. They've got it all for you at Minnecasia Sales in Burley. And right now, without further ado, as he is standing in the midst of sunshine and cacti down in St. George, Utah. Good morning, Dr. History.
Good morning, Zeb. How are you doing?
I understand that maybe the sunshine is a misnomer because you've been in the middle of a lot of rain. Is that right?
You know, last week was great. It was nice. It was sunny. But Friday, Saturday, Sunday, yeah, it came down pretty hard. Pretty good.
Well, now, you always have a great preparation for what's going to be on Dr. History Weekly, and I'm basically, because we're doing this program long distance, I'm going to turn everything over to you. And what is the subject matter for today?
We're going to talk about lost treasure and dead people. How's that?
Not necessarily in that order.
Okay. Well, so we start out. Now, actually, this story was published in 1915 by, so this story actually goes back 100 years. But, so it's being told by a fellow that, anyway, we're going to start off, anyway, not too long ago, and remember, we're at 1915, there was a group of mining men that gathered at one of the principal hotels in Denver to talk about matters and things of interest to the mining business. They were having a nice cold root beer, and some of them had made fortunes in mining, and a few of them had actual experience in prospecting and the hardships involved with that. But the conversation naturally turned to the early days, which for them would have been the 1800s, the early days of mining in the state. And after several incidences of interest had been told, one of the party drew from his pocket a buckskin bag. And from that, he brought out a large gold nugget, which was huge and worth a lot of money. And it was something these guys had never quite seen before. So the fellow goes on, he says, this nugget, he said, has a history. Pretty interesting. Its possession cost the life of at least one human and one mule, besides years of hardship and anguish and toil and work. But the exact spot where it came from is unknown. At present, he said, I confidently believe many years will elapse before it is ever known. So he continues the story. He says, in the early part of 1860, when the country generally in Colorado was kind of primitive, you know, there was mostly just coyotes and a few Indians and one thing and another, but a lone prospector set out from Denver to explore the then uninhabited region in the vicinity of the Greenhorn and Sangre de Cristo ranges. Have you heard of that before, Zeb?
I have, as a matter of fact, and I know quite a bit about that area's history, so I'm very interested in this.
Okay. So this is about 200 miles south of Denver.
Yep.
But no one knew who this guy was or where he came from. Now, a few questions were ever asked regarding a man's history. It was sufficient to know that he was there and one of them. They didn't try to find out anything more. So anyway, at the place where he bought his supplies, however, he gave the name of George W. Skinner. Okay, keep that guy in mind. And he said he was outfitting a trip to the Sangre de Cristo country, and besides paying for what he purchased, he deposited with the owner of the store a pretty good sum of money, which he did not care to take with him into the mountains, saying he would call for it when he returned in the fall. Well, as these stories go, several years passed, and nothing was heard of the lone prospector. And the beautiful Wet Mountain Valley, where we're talking, was actually the home of a German colony which had come from the east and settled there. And these guys didn't do hardly any prospecting because they were too busy as pioneers, you know, trying to build a home and raise a family and raising cattle and one thing and another. So one day, early in the spring of 1868, a middle-aged man drove up to one of the more wealthy-looking ranch houses in the valley and asked if he could stay for the night. And, of course, back then they did that. But anyway, his request was granted and had a nice evening meal. Well, when the family, which ranged sitting about the fireplace, they wanted to know news from the outside because anytime somebody came in, you know, the family wanted to know, okay, what's going on out in Denver and one thing and another. But anyway, he said he came from Illinois, he said, and it was in search of a missing brother whom he had traced that far and was anxious to find. Well, the brother had left home to come to Colorado in the early days of the Western fever, gold fever, and since which time nothing had been heard of him, this George Skinner, okay? So this is his brother that's out looking for him. Now, becoming alarmed at his continued absence, this brother had come to Colorado, and upon arriving at Denver, had learned from a friend who was in the grocery business that there was a man by the name of Skinner who bought a bunch of goods from him early in 1860, giving the Sangre de Cristo country as his objective point. and had left a sum of money on the deposit, which he had never called for, never come back to the store. So the brother had a hint right there. So anyway, he made his way to the valley in hopes of finding some trace of his brother, George Skinner. Well, the following morning, the German rancher accompanied the younger Mr. Skinner through the valley, but not one of the residents, the other Germans, had ever heard of this guy. It's kind of like he was there and just disappeared. So anyway, he was kind of discouraged, the younger brother, by the failure of his mission. But the discouraged brother proceeded to hire an old hunter and guide and started into the mountains in the hope of finding some information or something about his brother. Well, some months were spent without finding a trace of the man that they were looking for. And as the summer season was drawn to a close, Mr. Skinner and his guide started for the valley where they decided they would spend the winter with where the German people were at. So anyway, they said they figured they'd take up the search again in the early spring. Well, one night they camped just at the timberline on the eastern slope of a place called Horns Peak. Have you heard of that one, Zeb?
Now, that one you've got me on.
Okay. It must not be a very big one, but anyway, that's where they set up camp, and it apparently had been at one time the camp of a prospector.
Okay.
Now, Mr. Skinner's curiosity prompted him to make some exploration in the gathering twilight, and while removing some brush, he found what looked like to be the floor and the roof of a cabin. And he found an old leather kind of pocketbook type thing that was partly rotted away and carefully tied up with wire. And being kind of tired, and it was end of the day, it was getting dark, he just put it in his pocket, figuring he'd look at it the next morning. So now this might be a good place for a break if you want, Zeb.
You bet. I appreciate that. Very interesting story going on here with Dr. History. And, of course, Dr. History brought to you by Minnecasia Sales, 1321 East Main Street in Burley. Don't forget, I talked about overhead doors. They've got them to serve you. They've got also the interior doors. How do I know that? Because we bought one from them. And I'll tell you what, they've got all the windows to upgrade your windows and keep the cold winter air outside. All of this and so much more. Zach and the crew at Minnecasia Sales will help you. All you have to do is stop in 1321 East Main Street in Burley or give them a call at 878-2091. Minnecasia Sales bringing you Dr. History. And now without further ado, here's Doctor.
Okay, so here's the picture. George Skinner has disappeared for several years. His younger brother is out looking for him with a guide. They've been out there several months in the summer. Can't find him. They stop and set up camp for the night, and he finds this, what looks like the remains of an old cabin, and he finds this kind of leather-looking pouch that's kind of looks about half rotten, puts it in his pocket. So they stay the night. Now, in the night, one of the snowstorms that's so common in the mountains at that time of the year came up, and when the travelers got up in the morning, they found several inches of snow waiting for them with no signs of the storms letting up at all. So getting their camp fixtures together, they packed their burros and made their way as fast as they could to the home of this German family in the valley. And they arrived safely in the course of a day's travel, and not until the animals had been safely housed and everything made good for the winter did Mr. Skinner remember about his find that he'd put in his pocket. So he unfolded the pocketbook, and the secret of his long search was revealed. Carefully rolled up in the inside of the wallet was a letter written by his brother more than 8 years before. Now, here's what the letter said. And I like this, Zeb, because this is a straight from the horse's mouth type story. I like this one.
Okay.
So here's what he said in his letter. My weary search is ended, and my efforts crowned with success. Tomorrow I start for the settlements to return in the spring to uncover and work the valuable mine which I have discovered. Realizing the fact that I am a long way from civilization and liable to meet with serious mishap, if not death, before I reach the outer world, I am prompted to make the following statements which may reach the hand of some friend should misfortune overtake me. This letter I will leave in my cabin, hoping that I will be on the ground again in the spring as soon as I can, basically. Then he continues in the letter. He says, my name is George W. Skinner, and my home is in the city, and then it doesn't say, but somewhere in Illinois. And he goes on, he says, early this spring I started for the Sangre de Cristo Mountains from Denver to Prospect. Being impelled to come here by the reports of gold finds disclosed to me by some friendly Indians, God only knows the hardships I endured in reaching this country, and after spending the greater part of the season in fruitless search, I finally discovered what I believe to be one of the richest mines in Colorado. And I will carry out with me all the gold I can manage with my limited facilities to find the discovery shaft of the property which I have purposely filled up. In other words, he'd hidden it. You stand with your back to the west side of the cabin. This is the cabin that his younger brother had found, okay? And he says, alongside the door, then walk up the gulch in front of you 20 paces. You will then arrive at the place on the right-hand side of the gulch. The lead is a blind one, and I accidentally found it while digging out the roots of a tree that had been blown down.
Oh, my.
Now, he continues. He wrote a pretty long letter here. He said, should any person find this letter inside of 1 year, it will avail him nothing, as I have complied with the law sufficiently to hold the property for that length of time. If I do not return within that time, the property can be located by anyone. The only request I have to make is that the finder of this note notify my brother at the above address, signed George W. Skinner. Okay. Are you still with me?
Oh, absolutely, sir.
Okay. The brother was now thoroughly convinced that some harm had come to his brother, and without telling anyone of his discovery. So he was determined to set out in the spring and try to solve the mystery. Well, the snow that winter was pretty severe. A lot of snow, and then rocks moved, landslides, trees, one thing another. But with the opening of the spring, the snow on the south and east side of the mountain rapidly disappeared. And so in March, Mr. Skinner and his guide struck into the mountains, the guide being informed that they would take up the search where they left off the year before. In other words, they were going to try to find that old cabin that his brother had had.
Right.
Well, when they arrived at what they supposed was the place where the old cabin had been found, everything was changed. Like I said, because of the heavy snow, snowslides, they were unable to find even any hint of the cabin. I mean, trees had been swept away, boulders moved, so the general appearance was completely changed. And that's probably what happens a lot of times when people try to follow a map to something, that things have changed. Well, young Mr. Skinner determined to spend the summer in that area in the hopes of obtaining some clue of his missing brother, and if possible, locating the lost mine. Yet all their efforts were to no avail, and when fall set in, they reluctantly abandoned the search and again started for the foothills. Well, Mr. Skinner had decided to organize a party and make a systematic search the following year after returning home and taking care of some business that he had at home. Well, one day's travel from where he and the guide started on the return trip, the mountain kind of broke off very abruptly. The trail, which the party was following, was kind of along a rocky side hill, and the mountain overhung a chasm hundreds of feet deep. Well, while carefully picking their way along this dangerous path, one of the burros became frightened, and you know how they can shy and jump. Well, it plunged and bucked and went over the cliff and rolled down the gulch below, and several articles of value were in the pack, so two men decided they would tie up the remaining burro and pick their way down to the bottom of the gulch to save what they could of the wreckage, because the mule was dead.
Right.
Well, at the place where the burro was logged, some 200 feet below the trail, they were horrified to find the skeletons of a man and an animal lodged on a small shelf of rock near where their burro had struck.
Uh-oh.
Well, portions of the pack were still on the animal, and some of the clothing still clung to the skeleton of the man. Now, among the articles found near the dead man was a book containing a diary. So you're probably ahead of me on this. This showed that the skeleton was that of George Skinner.
Wow.
And the last entry in the diary referred to the writing of the letter, which we've already read, telling the secret of the mine and indicating that it had been written on the day prior to George's death.
Oh, my.
Well, on examination of the skeleton, showed that the skull had been split in two, and Skinner thought it had been the work of maybe Indians, robbery, although could not have been the motive. However, as there was a lot of gold and other gear of the camping outfit were found nearby. So whoever did this didn't rob the guy. But the remains were buried under a large pine on the mountainside near where they had lain so long, and Mr. Skinner resumed his homeward trip. He was kind of saddened by the fate of his brother, yet satisfied that he had unraveled the mystery surrounding the disappearance.
Oh, wait a minute. I've got a question right there. I've got a question. Why couldn't it have been accidental where maybe the mule had faltered and disrupted their descent off this mountain, and maybe the mule pulled him over the edge and it was all an accident?
Yeah, and when he said his head was split open, you know, that's a good question. I mean, yeah, he could have hit a rock, a sharp edge of a rock, and that really probably makes more sense than somebody killing him. But because evidently it was a very steep hill that they were on this trail.
Right.
So, but anyway, Skinner headed a party the following summer, and they tried to locate the lost mine. In fact, they continued the search for several years, but with the snow and the accompanying slides, together with forest fires, heavy rain, the summer had completely, pretty much obliterated all traces of the old camp and buried deeper than ever the rich mine of what's called Old Horns Peak. Now, this guy that started out telling this story with his buddies up in Denver, here's what he said. He said, I accompanied Mr. Skinner 1 year on his search, and from him, I learned the story. He showed me the letter written by his brother of the lost mine and allowed me to take a copy of it, which I still have among my relics. This big nugget of gold I have shown you is only one of a number taken from the pack of the dead burro by Mr. Skinner. And it convinces me that the dead man was not far wrong when he said that he found one of the richest mines in Colorado. Mr. Skinner and his party abandoned the search long ago, but someday in the future, Old Horns Peak will yield the secret of its buried treasure.
Well, now,
that's the story of George Skinner and his brother.
Okay, I got a couple of questions for you. Now, you say that initially there was a gold nugget that led the other brother on the search. What was it worth? It must have been worth literally thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah, and you were talking, 1860s. And to have a huge gold nugget, it had to be worth a lot. But evidently, when they found his body, the skeleton, there's some more gold nuggets
right.
that he had evidently been carrying out as well.
Right.
And they did gather those up, which I don't know how many or how much that would have been worth. But, yeah, we're talking, thousands of dollars worth of just in what they found at the side of the dead mule and the dead brother.
Well, what happened to the other brother? Don't leave me hanging. What did he do?
I don't know. Well, it says he gave up. So I'm thinking he gave up and headed home. I mean, he'd been out there 3 or 4 years, 5 years by now, looking, and he could never find the same place where he'd found the cabin.
Well, no, I think that's part of your homework is to find out, A, number one, what happened to the brother, and B, did he die a rich man because of his brother finding those nuggets?
That's the rest of the story that I don't know and probably won't.
Well, now give us a little background. Why are you in St. George, Utah?
Well, we had some family down here we stayed with or that we hooked up with. I hate to admit it, but I did go golfing a little bit. And, Zeb, I got to tell you, this time of year they have what they call a home show.
Yes.
Where they show all these model homes, fancy homes. There was a cheap one that was only about $3 million. Another one was only about $1.7 million. But I've got to tell you, there was one that I really wanted to go to it, and I did. It's a man who has in his home 3 huge rooms, 20-foot ceilings, with every kind of animal mount you could possibly want.
Wow.
I mean, I'm talking elephant, polar bear, alligator, elk, deer, mountain goats, fish, pheasants. In fact, when I come out next week, I'm going to show you some video of what this guy has in his house.
Oh, my goodness.
I mean, it almost makes Cabela's look like amateurs. I mean, lions. It is amazing.
Well, I want to say...
built this house to showcase his hunts.
Oh, my goodness. Well, listen, Dr. History down in St. George, enjoy your stay down there in the land of sunshine that has turned into rain, and we'll look forward to having you back on the air next Tuesday right here in the studio. God bless you, my friend.
I will actually be home today.
All right, well, you take care.
All right, see you next week.
All right, thank you very much. My friend, Dr. History, Dr. Ken Turner, brought to you by Minnecasia Sales, 1321 East Main Street in Burley, right across from the airport. Zach and the whole crew, call them on the landline, 878-2091. Minnecasia Sales, serving you. On Thursdays, we have a program segment called Cassia County School Days, and we want to say thank you very much to A Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley. February is their birthday month celebration. Oh my goodness, half the store is 50% off and the other half 25% off. Boy, I'll tell you what, and the prices were not marked up. They give honest sales at A Child's World. And don't forget too, along with everything for the kiddies, they've got all this Cherokee scrubs and the shoes at A Child's World, 1308 Overland in Burley. And of course with Ambulatory Surgery Center at 1344 Highland Avenue in Burley. Ambulatory Surgery Center for all your outpatient surgeries. Don't forget they can save you money with outstanding surgeries like colonoscopies, glaucoma surgery, tonsils, etc. Call and save money at Ambulatory Surgery Center, 677-8888. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in about 3 minutes with our next guest on Zeb at the Ranch. Don't you go away.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Before we go to our guest, I want to remind you, coming up on March 4th, put this on your calendar, cattlemen, one of the West's most outstanding offerings of yearling and coming 2-year-old bulls, Gelbvieh, Angus, and Balancer bulls from the Sheridan Ranch. Cordell and Patty Sheridan, their 22nd annual bull sale, and this is always a dandy. Boy, this is something you need to attend. Sale starts at 1 p.m. at the Burley Auction Yard on March 4th. Don't forget lunch provided at noon. 85 ripping good bulls are going to sell, and free delivery up to 300 miles radius of the sale. Sheridan Ranch, oh my, good folks, Cordell and Patty Sheridan, with their 22nd annual bull sale on March 4th. Don't you miss it. Right now, let's go to the phone line, and we have had this gentleman on our program before, and we're looking forward to having him on this morning, an attorney with the Pacific Legal Foundation, and he's going to be talking about a story that is one of my, and I underline this word, favorite stories, and that is, of course, the challenging of whether or not the gray wolf should have an endangered status in California. I'm Ed I. Wolf, and I can't wait to hear what Tony's got to say. Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm well this morning. How are you doing, sir?
Good. Tony, give us a little background on what happened in California with the ranching groups and their challenge as to whether or not the legality of having the endangered status being applied to the gray wolf.
Well, sure. Thanks. The clients that Pacific Legal Foundation represents in this case are the California Farm Bureau and the California Cattlemen's Association, and for several years, representatives of both of those organizations on behalf of ranchers, primarily in Northern California, have been working with wildlife officials to try to develop some kind of balanced approach to protecting livestock herds from wolf predation to the extent that occurs, and at the same time protecting wolves that may come in and out of California from hunting. And, so that process had been ongoing for a while. It was yielding some fruit in terms of a management plan that ideally would have helped, both sides of this conflict kind of live together. The California Fish and Game Commission completely upset the apple cart by buckling under, frankly, excuse me, to a very vocal group of activists that wanted the state of California to list gray wolves as endangered in California under California's version of the Federal Endangered Species Act. And the commission finally, knuckled under and did this. The upshot of that is that none of these management approaches that would allow both sides to coexist can now be done, because the result of California designating the gray wolf as endangered is that nobody can do anything to interfere with the wolf predating lambs, calves, dogs, domestic animals, in California as a result of the listing.
Now, Tony, I, of course, am very familiar with what's gone on here in the state of Idaho for the last over 20 years, with the readmittance, if you will, of the wolves to the state of Idaho, and also arguing and arbitrating with the environmental groups over whether or not they should be not only an endangered species or why they won't honor their commitment here in the state of Idaho. First of all, it was 10 breeding pairs, and now the numbers are up close to 12 to 1,300 wolves in our state, way over and exceeding the numbers. So I know what the environmental groups are trying to do, and they'll do the same in California. They will not abide by a decision. They will not abide by any agreements, and it's not really the protection of the wolves. It's all a matter of control. Would you, as an attorney for PLF, agree with me?
I have to agree that there never really seems to be a stable end result for the efforts to reintroduce and manage or not manage various types of predators into the wild. The reason that wolves became as scarce as they have been in California is because it's not consistent to have ranching and predators like wolves on the same landscape. The state of California's action in trying to protect gray wolves as endangered, our view is illegal under the State Endangered Species Act for several reasons. And so our lawsuit is aimed at removing California's endangered species designation from gray wolves. Of course, 4 years ago now, the federal government proposed delisting gray wolves nationwide under the Federal Endangered Species Act because it does not need the protections of the Endangered Species Act. So some of what we see are individual states trying to reestablish protection under state endangered species laws, and this just inevitably leads to very difficult conflict with not just livestock herds, but obviously domestic animals. And there are some that I think raise legitimate concerns about safety of people. And there's a video you can find on the internet about the concerns that exist in New Mexico with a population of wolves down there, where school children waiting for the bus to come and pick them up to school sit in a enclosure that's to protect them from wolves. So there seems to be a really just an odd fixation on making sure there are as many wolves as possible, predating livestock herds and interfering or in conflict with human populations. And I would have to agree that that's not a direction that civilizations usually move.
Tony, let me ask you this. Is the gray wolf, is it ascertained that wolf is indigenous to that area, or is the wolf being brought in or has been funneled in through its own migratory habits or through the government bringing them into Idaho from Canada. Is this a wolf that is not indigenous to that area? And if so, why in the world should it get state protection?
Well, now, that's a very good question. The facts on the ground here in California are pretty basic. One wolf that appears to be native to southern Oregon has occasionally crossed the California border and been seen in and out of California over a period of time. And that's the one wolf on which the entire California listing is based. So there's at least three problems with this. One is that California is listing this species of wolves, gray wolves, even though the particular subspecies that are present in Oregon were never actually native to California. And that violates the California Endangered Species Act because it is only applicable to species that are native to California. So that's one problem. The next problem is that, kind of one way to put this is, you would always conclude that any given species is endangered if you went someplace where there's one of them and looked only at that one, and you think, wow, there's only one. They must be in real trouble. California did that by limiting its inquiry as to whether gray wolves are endangered to this one that transits back and forth between Oregon and California. But if you look at the overall population of gray wolves throughout North America, as the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has concluded, they're not endangered. And then, you know, just this basic idea that where there's one animal that passes through or hangs out for a little while, that you would designate across an entire state that species as endangered, based on the transitory presence of one individual, also we think does not qualify the wolf for state protection under the State Endangered Species Act. You would have to have a resident population of whatever species you're trying to protect.
We have seen the dominoes fall, if you will, in our state of Idaho, Wyoming, Montana. Then we've seen some of the problems start to creep up and create bigger problems in Oregon, Washington State, now also down into Northern California. I know that area very well. And it just seems like the domino board is set up for the environmentalists to take more control in all of the western states in favor of the endangered status for the wolf. And I'm so glad you folks are there to fight these people, because I see a complete domino program where each and every state will fall unto their control.
Well, we hope to turn that back in California for certain, and it's great to be able to work with and represent organizations like the Cattlemen's and Farm Bureau in protecting their members and the ranching industry generally from having their government, in this case the state of California, prevent them from protecting their livestock, their animals.
What about the ranchers and the farmers in this area? I know Lassen County quite well. I rodeoed for a living over in that area, and I know a lot of the folks that are ranchers. Do they feel like a lot of people here in the state of Idaho, their hands are tied, and basically they can't protect their property, they can't protect their livestock, and quite frankly, they can't protect their lifestyle?
Well, there's I would say that is certainly the case from people that I've met with and spoken to and heard from. There is a lot of frustration and discouragement in this aspect of it in particular. These are people that worked in good faith with the State Department of Fish and Wildlife for a very long time to try to come up with a balanced approach to managing any wolves that might migrate into California, to protect the livestock herds, and also, certainly to protect the wolves from hunting, because, they're not an authorized game animal in California. And then to see all that work discredited and thrown out because the Fish and Game Commission, basically gave in to some very loud, noisy, and frankly irrational activists who place the well-being of wolves above every other, social value. And if you can go on the internet and look at the archived hearings in front of the Fish and Game Commission at which these activists testified, and you can see in those hearings the concern that the ranchers have, because what they're being told is your interests aren't important here. The government is going to favor the ability of apex predators to reestablish in your ranch lands and eat your livestock, and prevent you from doing anything to defend your herds, and prosecute you if you do anything to defend your herds. That's basically being told that in an otherwise free society, your business, your livelihood, your lifestyle and property don't cut it with the government.
Yeah. Tony, what are the rules and restrictions going on within the state of California in protection of the wolves that we have seen, hopefully and gratefully, go by the wayside in other states like the state of Idaho, to where if a wolf or a wolf pack is attacking horses or cattle, you mean to tell me that right now it's a complete hands-off in the state of California and they can't do a thing?
Well, the state endangered species listing imposes, very similar to the federal ESA, prohibition on anything that would be described as take of any gray wolf that's present in the state. And so that's this very broad definition to pursue, harass, harm, hunt, any of these things. And so, for example, you cannot let dogs loose on a gray wolf in California for the purpose of deterring it from stalking your herds. You obviously can't trap it. You can't shoot at it in an effort to make it leery of a given area. So it makes it very difficult to do any of the things that could have been done under this management plan that was being cooperatively developed to make wolves, if they did reestablish in California, leery of and stay away from livestock herds.
What they have done by not working with the farmers and ranchers, and I'll be very blunt about it, they've created an element of shoot, shovel, and shut up that, quite frankly, as a property owner and a rancher, I would adhere to. Your thoughts?
Well, we certainly don't condone, law breaking, and what we're trying to do is rectify the illegal designation of wolves as endangered under California law. In order to allow the parties, the ranchers, and the state wildlife regulators to return to the cooperative approach that they've been pursuing prior to this really misguided endangered listing by the Fish and Game Commission here.
What's going to happen, Tony? I hope that the Pacific Legal Foundation, you in particular, as an acting attorney in this case, I hope you can win. What are the odds? What's in favor of you right now?
Well, first of all, we think we've got a very good record in this case. The Fish and Wildlife Department had recommended against listing gray wolves in California, and the Fish and Game Commission rejected that recommendation and basically told the department staff, you need to go back and rewrite this so that we can do what we want to do, which is list them. Then you've got the legal problems that I listed earlier. This species of wolf is not native to California, so it's not eligible for listing under the California Endangered Species Act. This species of wolf is not endangered across its entire range and throughout its population. And, the fact that, one member of a species wanders in and out of the state is not enough for the state to then designate a population of those animals as endangered. So, we're optimistic that the courts will give us a fair hearing and reverse this.
Tony, I want to say compliments and kudos to you. Thanks for being on the program this morning. Tony Francois with the Pacific Legal Foundation. If people want to find out more about the Pacific Legal Foundation and these cases, what do they do? How do they find you?
Well, our website is pacificlegal.org, and we've got information there on all of our pending cases, and they can also learn about a variety of other areas that we do work in. As well as if anyone is inclined, you can donate securely there. We are a 501c3 charitable foundation that provides pro bono, without charging attorney fees, representation to property owners and business owners in their disputes with governments over use of their property. So we are able to level the playing field that property owners have in their disputes with the government over the use of their property.
Absolutely. Tony, appreciate it, man. Come back soon, and I'll give you a call. Appreciate you being on the program.
Hey, my pleasure, Zeb. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir. California, of course, going the same route of problems that we have been through here in the state of Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, and the list goes on. And I'll still stand behind this, and I know my dear, dear friend Jack Euler, I wished he would call in this morning. I know that he would totally agree. It's not about protecting the wolves in any way, shape, or form. It's about the 7-letter word control. That's what they want. They want more control over you and I, property owners, and the states in general. And that's what the environmental groups are in favor of. Control. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I got to get a weather forecast on here. Don't forget Scarrow's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. Don Scarrow and the rest of the crew, they are changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. You know what? Scarrow's Meats, your locally owned custom meat processor for over 20 years. And you just got to check out the delicious, I'm going to hit on this one again because it's my favorite, the marinated prime rib. Oh, delicious. Check it out. All these treats, and they are treats, at Scarrow's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. The number to call, 324-7657. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Looks like we still have that flood warning. It is in effect because temperatures are warming up. We've got a lot of melting going on, and, of course, more rain showers in the forecast for today. Looks like it's going to be windy as well out of the southwest, right around 26 miles an hour. We are expecting a high of 49. Tonight, low of 32. Tomorrow, winds are going to be dying down just a little bit. Still cloudy, high of 39 with an overnight low of 25. Looks like possible snow showers for Thursday morning. Winds are going to be picking up as well, high of 34 with an overnight low of 22. Hopefully mostly sunny and 35 for Friday. That is your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Gina, thank you. And brought to you by Scarrow's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, 324-7657. They are changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. I want to hit this one more time before we leave here this morning. The Minidoka and Cassia County Lincoln Day Luncheon, always very interesting and informative. If you got questions about what's going on in our state government, etc., and on a national scene, that is a great place to go to get the answers. It's going to be this coming Saturday, February 25th, at Maury's Steakhouse Convention Center. The meet and greet at 11:30 a.m., lunch at noon, and they're going to have, as I said earlier, Senator Kelly Anthon, Representative Fred Wood, Speaker of the House Scott Bedke, lots and lots of local officials, and believe me, there's a lot to talk about on Saturday. So they'll be there, $25 a ticket, and they can be purchased at the door. That's coming up this coming Saturday, the 25th. Be there, okay? Another quick note that on Thursday of this week, Lunch Bunch, Zeb's Lunch Bunch at Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner. Don't forget that, 11:30 a.m. And Wheels, are you going to be at Lunch Bunch this time? I hope so.
I am. I remember that I wasn't able to make it the last time because of the weather and everything, so I told myself that I will try to make it in this Thursday.
You know, and it's really kind of funny, Wheels, that every time we've had a lunch bunch scheduled since I think December and then through January and now into February, there's always been the weather forecast with a hint of snow, and that's basically what they're calling for again on Thursday.
I know. The angel dandruff never seems to surprise me. It's always... It really sucks looking at the forecast and then seeing that there's snow.
Okay, Wheels, thanks. Hey, by the way, don't forget your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Oh, my goodness, they are celebrating their Founders Celebration right now. And, of course, Mr. Les Schwab, 65 years, their business is earning your trust. And you know one of their slogans, doing the right thing matters. Well, you'll always do the right thing when you go into any one of the 7 locations of your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers right here. Great buys on passenger car tires. They got one of them starting at just $39.99, low-cost all-season design. And, of course, for the pickups and SUVs, the backcountry all-terrain tire, they've got tires for every driving need. And along with the best in brake service, front-end alignment, shocks and struts, and batteries, all 7 locations here in the Magic Valley serving you. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Poline in Twin Falls, and my buddy Randy on Overland in Burley. The Founders Celebration, great buys on your tires, great service to you at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Tomorrow on the program, let's take a look. What have we got cooking? We've got Mr. Dave Bego on President's Day tomorrow at 9:06. Then we're going to have a dear friend of ours, Minidoka County Sheriff Eric Snar, will be on at 9:30 talking about all the hazards and the damage over in Minidoka County. And then at 10:06, it's our Idaho Fish and Game Report with Kelton Hatch. All of that coming up tomorrow on the show, and we invite you to tune in. 1230 K-Bar AM, and then streaming live on the internet, zebbell.com, all over the United States and for that matter the world. And remember, the way things were are the way things ought to be. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 8:06. God bless. Have a good day.